Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today we have some potentially spoiler-heavy things being talked about today. It's not potentially, it is spoiler-heavy. So if you aren't caught up, I recommend clicking off, catching up to Campaign 3, Episode 82, which is what we'll be discussing up to today, because that's all that's available at this current time of recording. But if you don't mind spoilers, you're obviously welcome to stay and get spoiled all you want. And if you aren't, like I said, this is your last warning to click off the video because we have some spoilers coming up. So the spoiler warning out of the way, it's time to move on to this massive reveal that episode 82 had dropped on us. And I think it's best to just show the clip and then go from there to explain what I mean by how this is a massive reveal.
In the Ryloran's head that's with us, I'm gonna say these soldiers down here, are they friendly to you or foe?
These are of the Vanguard, correct?
Yeah.
And these are aligned with the Imperium, so no.
Imperium. So that changes. Is that the first drop of that word? Imperium. Or am I forgetting?
Imperium. About this time.
So how is this a big reveal? Well, with this single sentence, it actually answers 3 questions that I've been having about this campaign for a long time, and we're going to break all these down now. The first one is, are all of the Ryolans on the same side? The answer is obviously no. It seems that there is a group named the Imperium who I would imagine are looking to release Predathos and to sort of potentially get themselves off the moon of Ruidus and sort of start moving down to Exandria. I would imagine that's their goal because what else purpose would you have to work with the Ruby Vanguard who have a portal or a bridge to go between the two? I imagine that is their main goal, to release Predathos, embrace their power and their sort of god or creator, and then come down to Exandria and wreak havoc and, start anew on Exandria. And I would imagine whatever the other group's name, whatever it be, whether it be the Rebels, Resistance, whatever Star Wars reference you want, it can likely mean that they're going against the idea of releasing Predathos, hence why they're not working with the Ruby Vanguard and why they would answer Imogen's call as opposed to someone else's. They can probably see that Imogen isn't working for the Ruby Vanguard when she's summoning some of these Ryolans, and those ones are the ones who appear for her because all of them seem to align with her and not with the Ruby Vanguard. So that is the first reveal out of the 3 reveals that this gives us. The second reveal is that this means that the Bell's Hells actually have allies on the moon. They are not going to be 100% alone. This to me indicates a few things. First and foremost, that again, they're not going to be alone while they're up there. They're going to have allies. They might be able to gain a ton of information from this other group that is in the Imperium, and they might have people help them sneak into any bases of the Imperium that they need. Second, say a character like Odahan Thule shows up, because at the end of this episode, it's revealed that someone is going up the bloody bridge behind them, and I would imagine it's going to be Odahan Thule. There might be a save from some sort of rebel resistance group on Ruidus, which would be really cool and be really fun. This could take the form of a new guest player, which means that this new Ryolan race could be available to players now, which would be really cool in my opinion for a myriad of reasons. Last campaign they introduced the option for Warforged, which is now what we call Aeorians in the Exandrian world. So now to have another race would be really cool, and for it to be first shown off by a guest player would also be cool. Now that is a stretch, we might not have that at all, but the possibility is there. So there are allies on Ruidus now for the players, so they can now find a place to safely hide from anyone, rest up, get information, and potentially get allies to help them break into places to get information. This is a huge reveal because now it means they're not totally alone, and the whole idea that this could be a suicide mission is now greatly reduced in risk because there are in fact going to be allies up here. And the last major reveal is the one that I think the most people likely missed, and that is we now know who Ira is working with. We now know who the Nightmare King is working with. The last time we saw him, Fern scried on him. I believe this is back in episode 65, so this is a little while ago, almost 20 episodes ago. And last time we saw him, he was skulking around on Ruidus, which was a big shock to everyone because we didn't know where he was after the infiltration of the dig site went totally wrong. Which now was revealed he was on the moon somewhere. He interacted with what looked to be what we now know as a Juggernaut Ryolan, And then he went inside a building, and that was the last we ever saw of him. That was literally the last time we've seen anything from him. No one scried on him. No one sent any messages to him. He's never sent any messages to the Bell's Hells. So he has been missing this entire time. And after that point, the only Ryolans that we saw that weren't summoned by Imogen were working with the Ruby Vanguard, which could lead many people to believe he is now potentially working for or with the Ruby Vanguard. But now that we have this reveal that there is an Imperium and some sort of other group, we now know he is likely not working with the Imperium. He is a petty motherfucker, and we damn well know he's not going to work with anyone who aligns with people who stole his work. So, we now know he is not in fact working with the Ruby Vanguard. We know for a fact he is now working with whatever this other rebel group is, or resistance group, or just group in general. And we know that he is not going to be an enemy. He is an ally for when the Bell Cells show up. He is going to be one of those allies that I mentioned before who could help them sneak into places. It's going to be a sort of reunion between Ira and the rest of the Hells, which would be really cool because it's been a long time since we've seen him. And I would very much like for him to be reintroduced into the story somehow. He's a fantastic character, cool, like a very cool design, and he is some sort of a anti-hero, anti-antagonist sort of thing, which is really cool. He started off as a villain and sort of grouped up with the party as needs of necessity. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, and that is still the case here. He is still very much the enemy of their enemy, so he is their friend. And now he's working with other potential allies that could give the Bell's Hells an in to work with them, which I think is really cool and was a very well planned out reveal by Matt, and I think this is brilliant.
You feel yourself drift outward and then focus once more and release into the ether of the pulse of life around Exandria. No. And find yourself deep within a clustered red dust storm. Not amongst structures. Not amongst others. Alone and pushing through a maelstrom. A stronger storm than they've said. Just trudging through a shaded, intense red nothing.
Psst.
No response.
Does it look distraught? Nope. 18.
18. Okay.
I know.
You watch him for a bit, and he approaches, and you see a dark shape beginning to arrive. He presses up against this shape, and gives the side of this what looks like a heavy piece of smooth stone, like a massive boulder that has been just smoothed over by the weather on the surface of this realm. Scrapes his fingers across it, and then ducks into an alcove. Now, outside of the storm, he pulls his arm back. You see his pure black eyes kind of blink, and this long finger pushes dust out of the corners of them. Its long ears, and he kind of grins as he turns around and looks at someone. You see another figure kind of approach. Thick, kind of partially patchwork armored torso. Material, you're not quite sure what it's made of, but this muscular humanoid figure of deep red skin with odd textures. You can see where the thick neck is. They're humanoid, but the features are sallow and smoothed. You see the eyes are odd shaped and the head pushes back. This looks like This looks like one of the entities that you've seen Imogen bring through, but not ethereal, not energy form, but physical. And it is dressed, and it seems to acknowledge Ira with recognition. You don't see any conversation. It's like they're conversing without words.
Mentally. Fucking cool.
And as it kind of gives a nod, it steps back into the interior of wherever Ira is and Ira begins to follow just as the spell fades.
So that is all for the reveal as of right now. Obviously, more will be revealed as we move forward, exactly what the name of this other group is, what exactly the difference is between this other group and the Imperium. Is it even a group, or is it just people living their regular lives under the foot of the evil Imperium, and they're sort of beginning to fight it back against them? We don't know yet, and I'm very excited to learn more. However, there are a few other things that we do know about the Ryolans. We know that there are 4 subgroups of Ryolans, and I kind of want to talk about them today because it's kind of cool. There is the Thought Eater, the Hexmind, the Juggernaut, and the Shriek. Now, each of them seem to serve a different purpose, with the exception of Hexmind and the Thought Eater. The Thought Eater has a lot of very psychic-based, telekinetic-based abilities, as does the Hexmind. But the Hexmind seems to be like slightly weaker than the Thought Eater, and I would imagine we haven't seen all of the stuff from the Thought Eaters yet. The Thought Eater is what they fought at the end of episode 82 before they made it up to Rudis. So we know they're incredibly powerful, they're rather durable, they have a lot of health, and it seems that the Hexmind is like a weaker version of that sort of is able to command other groups, because we've seen many Hexminds, and Juggernauts listen to them, and I would imagine so do Shrieks. So as far as the power system goes, it seems to go Thought Eater, Hexmind, Juggernaut, Shriek, from what I gathered. So I kind of want to break down each of them. Like I said, the Thought Eater is seemingly the most powerful. They have a lot of telekinesis-based abilities, and they seem to be just, as far as raw power, the most powerful. They can do the most damage. They have the most varying amount of abilities. And a Hexmind is very similar to them, just a little bit weaker. These are the 2 most common summons from Imogen. She has summoned Thought Eaters on a few other occasions. One was in Malaismere, and then she summoned another one here on episode 82 to sort of help fight, but unfortunately didn't do too much before it got desummoned because of concentration. The other one that she summons a lot is Hexmind, which we've seen a handful of times over the course of this campaign. One of them being in Whitestone Castle when they fought the ghosts in the little laboratory there. So we've seen these 2 the most. The Juggernaut is the one that we've seen fight the most. We've seen, I think, 3 or 4 times now from Juggernauts fighting, and that is the one that Orym absolutely obliterates in the lava pool, which I thought was really cool. But they seem to be like the Hulk type fighter, where they're big and massive, and they use their psychonetic abilities to increase their physical damage, the amount of damage they can do physically. And they seem to be really beefy and really strong as well, but with kind of a low AC, which makes them a little easier to hit. Whereas the Shriek seems to be similar to the Juggernaut, just more agile and weapon based. They're able to have these chains wrapped around them that they're able to telekinetically throw at people and sort of wrap them up, and they're able to pull them in with it, and then use their sort of bracer blades, arm looking predator things, which are really cool sounding, and they're able to cut people up with those, which I find really, really, really fucking cool. So all of them are really cool and really interesting. Some of them do have a lot of similarities. The artwork you're seeing is by Tyler Walpole, and I just felt like saying that because these apparently seem to be WizKids concept arts, which means we're likely going to see minis for these characters, which I'm buying, because these things are fucking sick. And I think these are also the minis that Matt is using, prototype minis of these things, because we've seen all of them now as mini forms, which is really cool. So hopefully those become available. I don't know if they are yet or not. I haven't seen anything, and I typically keep my eyes peeled on any minis like that prop up, because I like minis. So these are cool. We just want to talk about these a little bit because I do think this whole race is really cool, and I hope it becomes something that's more widely available with stat blocks, or even a character potential race as it. Maybe there's just a standard race where they don't have all these telekinetic abilities off the bat, and we can play as those, which I think would be really cool, especially as time moves on. If the Rudis or the Ryolans are able to come down to Exandria and start living life like how the Aoritons did, I think that'd be really cool, and there would be another race available for people to play as, which I think would be really dope, which I think might be what they're waiting for to make a Marquette sort of book, because we're now, I think, 2 to 3 years deep into campaign 2, and I think we're beginning year 3, and we don't have a book yet. I'm pretty sure the books for both the other 2 came out not necessarily early, but around this time. So I would like to see another book come out for Marquette, but who knows? And I would like to see this race in it. But yeah, I just felt like talking about the Ryolans today, because I don't think we've talked about them much on this channel, and I do feel like they deserve being talked about a little bit. So there you have it, this reveal that sort of gave us a lot of information within a single sentence, and it was quickly glossed over. Matt moved on from it very quickly, And that's why I think a lot of people missed it, because right after that is when the map comes out and we start doing a lot more stuff with like physical, like moving towards the Malleus Key to move up to the Bloody Bridge to get to Ruidus. This happened just before all of that started. Just before the planning of what they're going to do when they actually get there, what they're going to do to get to the Bloody Bridge, and then the whole fight took place afterwards. So this reveal got quickly glossed over and moved on. Like, Liam's question about if this is the first time we've heard about the Imperium or not, just straight up doesn't get answered. So the fact that this sort of whole thing gets glossed over, to me, it took me a minute to sort of register about what it was, like what exactly it meant for this Imperium thing to exist, and what it means that there's people fighting against the Imperium. So very good reveal in one like small blip, and it was very, very quickly pushed to the side to move on to the actual combat scenario, which I think was very cleverly done by Matt, and was totally done on purpose to sort of get people thinking about it, because that's what Matt does. Matt does that shit all the time, and this one got me. This one was missed by me initially, and then when I went back over a few things, I was like, oh shit, what's this in my notes about the Imperium? It made me click on a few things about it. So I'm very excited to see more about the Imperium, to learn more about them. And yeah, also one more thing before I wrap up the video. In my recap video for episode 82, I said I was going to be showing off the maps that they used for the last combat, and then I never did because I was rushing, because we had got hit by a massive snowstorm that day and I had to go shovel. And much like today, there's people snow blowing, so I don't know if you guys heard any of the snow blowers. Hopefully you didn't, but I am showing off the map now. I've been showing off the map since I started talking about this. So it's really badass, it's really cool, and it makes me so goddamn jealous that he has access to all this fucking really cool Warforged shit. I'm sure it's not just Warforged, he's probably got more than that, but it's all really cool, really badass. I really want to make maps like this, but it's not within the budget. The budget is hard. So yeah, that is everything for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys were also thinking about what this meant for the Imperium, and if there was any other big reveal that sort of went under the radar in the last couple episodes, who knows? I will go find them, hopefully, and hopefully they just get answered soon. But overall, I very much enjoy this reveal. See you guys later. Peace.